our numbers going up.
Yes, quickly.
It is.
Ready? Good, good, good. Look at that, look at that. And let some more people join. We wanted to give everybody an opportunity. We see people jumping on. Let me just start by saying, welcome everyone who has joined this webinar today. We are so excited to have each and every one of you here today to join us for the HBCU Storytellers at Disney FAMU University virtual event. I will tell you that you have stepped into the Rattlers Den, right? You have a lot of Rattlers on this call today. FAMU Lee, who are going to strike out and give you some really good advice. So we know we have HBCU representation on the webinar today. We have FAMU Lee in the house. So we are just so excited to have everybody here today. And what a fun hour it's going to be. So I hope that you all are ready. Let me just start by introducing myself. My name is Yolanda, and I am a director of public relations with the Walt Disney Company. And I really hope that you all are excited to join us today. And I'm going to ask you all to do something, even though we're in a virtual environment. I want you to take just a moment and just close your eyes. And I want you to think about the word Disney. And then think about the words that come to mind. What are the words you feel in your heart? What are the words that come to mind? Just take a minute and do that. Okay, open your eyes because you've got to be able to see us, right? But I'm betting that a lot of you probably thought about the word fun, right? You thought about happiness, and you probably thought about the word magic. Well, if you did, that is certainly appropriate because today we're going to take a little bit of peek behind the magic. And I will tell you, the people who are on the webinar, my fellow cast members with me today, they do all kinds of interesting things, whether it's protect the magic or make the magic. They are the magic makers and also FAMU Rattlers. So they have a lot of great wisdom, insight, and information to impart about the work that they do with the Walt Disney Company. And we're going to get into that. And you're going to learn quite a bit as you hear from them today. But we also want this panel to be interactive. So while we've got a lot to share with you, we also want to hear from you. And you'll have an opportunity to ask questions as we go. So with that in mind, let's start with a couple of little tips on how we can all engage today. So I want to start with that. I'll give you a couple of notes, and then I'm going to introduce you to these dynamic rattlers and panelists, or they'll introduce themselves. So the first thing, of course, is that we're viewing this panel through a Zoom webinar. Normally, of course, before the world changed, we'd be with you in person. So even though you can see our wonderful panelists, they can't see you, right? So they can't see you. However, as we interact today, there will be a way for you to chat with everyone. And let's talk about that. The first is through the Zoom chat feature, which you all have all discovered. I see all of the notes coming in and everyone's giving shout outs. It's at the bottom of your window. So that's a place where you can type your comments. You can chat one-on-one with each other. And just make sure if you're sending a note out to the group that you send it, so all the panelists can see it, make sure you send it out to everyone, right? As opposed to an individual message. So that's number one. Second thing is keep in mind, there'll be a portion of the panel where we'll be answering your questions. We really want to hear your questions so that we can share our insights. So we do encourage you ask questions in the Q&A section of the Zoom, again, at the bottom of the window. So as you hear them talk, start thinking about those questions and don't be shy about doing that. And if you see that a question has already been asked in the Q&A, some of you may have the same question that you would like for us to answer, just click a thumbs up, give it an upvote, right? So that, so that we know, there's a lot of interest in that. So I can see you all virtually shaking your heads, even though I can't see you all. Everyone is ready. The Rattler Den is fired up. So now that we've got that out of the way, we're going to take a quick peek behind the magic and then come back and let you meet these dynamic panelists. So right now, let's take a quick look. Absolutely. So Disney, be a part of the story. And now you're going to meet the people who are absolutely a part of the Disney story. So I'm going to start with introductions. When I call on you, we're going to ask everyone to introduce yourself, tell our participants today how long you've been with the Walt Disney Company, what department you work in, and then also what FAMU school you graduated from, because that'll be interesting as well. So Shadid Sharp, we're going to start with you. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shadid Sharp. I've been with the Walt Disney Company for 12 years now, under the ESPN umbrella. I work in the studio, so any of the shows that you probably have watched, from SportsCenter to Sunday NFL Countdown to First Take, I've watched it. As far as the school, I'm J School all day. Old school Tucker Hall days, for those that were there on the hill back in those days. So I proudly carry the flag of J School along with FAMU overall.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Shadid. J School here as well. All right, so let's go to Talana Hill. Talana, introduce yourself.
Yes, so I am Talana Hill. I actually work at Disney in the corporate division, supporting the park segment. So within parks, we have a few business units. One is the Disney Cruise Line. The other is Disney Vacation Club, which is our timeshare business. Adventures by Disney, as well as Nat Geo Expeditions, which are both two types of boutique vacation businesses. So I support those companies by helping them report their financial information up to the segment and then to corporate. I've been with Disney about 11 years, and I graduated from the School of Business and Industry, first with my bachelor's in accounting, and then went several years later and did the remote program for the MBA.
Okay, SBI in the house. All right, thank you, Talana. All right, let's go to Ivy Williams. Ivy.
Hi, Rattlers. I'm Ivy Williams, and I graduated in the College of Engineering with a mechanical engineering degree. I've been with the company 14 years. I am a staff quality engineer, and in my role, I'm responsible for making sure that the attractions are compliant to Disney and industry standards. And basically what that means is we identify risks, we mitigate risks that are in our designs and in our processes.
All right, thank you. Very important to the work that we do, as all of it is. And last but certainly not least, person that keeps it all together, Chiquita Banks, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Yolanda. And hey to Rattlers and all to the HBCU students. We are really excited to be here. I'm Chiquita Banks. I am actually a corporate tax attorney, but I'm not a boring tax person. I actually get to work with the production teams to find incentives to go and shoot in global locations. So not only in the States, there's a lot of production in Florida, there's a lot of production Georgia, California, New York, but also New Zealand, Australia, the United Kingdom. So my business is very much so global. I'm a tax attorney. I graduated from SBI, the 5-year program. I actually did it in 5 years, which a lot of my friends didn't. I want to just throw that out there. And I've been with the company now for 2 years. So I'm the neophyte of the group.
The neophyte of the group. Okay, that's true. That's true. So I'm going to round us out. Thank you, panelists. As you can see, as I promised, there is so much knowledge and diversity of background and experience. We're going to dig into our questions, and I'll just cap us off by saying I've been with the Walt Disney Company for 5 years, so just a little bit longer than you, Chiquita, but you're still the neophyte of the group. Like Talana, I support Disney Signature Experiences, which are all of our travel businesses. And in my role, I'm responsible for creating communication strategies, overseeing media relations. I'm also a spokesperson for the organization for National Geographic Expeditions, Disney Cruise Line. So it's just a really exciting part of our business. Like Shadid, I'm a proud graduate of the J School, the School of Journalism, and focused on broadcast journalism. So all sorts of things you can do with your journalism degree. So as you can see, we've got a garden variety here. So panelists, I think we ought to just jump right into it. Are you all ready?
Let's
Let's
do
do
it.
it.
We're ready.
All right, it looks like they're ready. So here we go. Let's start here. Let's start with this. Let's just talk about, your journey to the Walt Disney Company. What initially drew you to Disney, and then what makes your experience at Disney so unique? So, Ivy, how about you start? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Thanks, Yolanda. So I actually was introduced to Disney. I'm from Florida originally, and I was at a Society of Women Engineers conference and recruiting for my previous company, living and working in Detroit. I was at the conference, walking around, picking up all the free stuff that all the corporations are giving out. Of course, when I saw Disney's table, they were handing out something exceptional in true Disney fashion. And I just had a conversation with a recruiter. I wasn't in the job market. I wasn't looking for a role. We exchanged information. They followed up with me about 4 months later. They flew me down for an interview for actually 2 different roles, and they extended an offer about 3 weeks later. And the rest is pretty much history. And so what makes my role unique is it's a global role. So we have parks all over the world. And I have been fortunate enough to have assignments in Disneyland Paris and Shanghai Disneyland. And when I'm working on an attraction, I'm thinking about the impacts that it's going to have at our international locations, because the goal is to always drive consistency and alignment.
Absolutely. And I love that element that a lot of people have touched on, right? That a lot of us don't work just domestically. And Chiquita, you talked about that. We work outside the United States. And so Chiquita, that's a good bridge to you. Do you want to talk a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, since I am, I'm effectively a production attorney, right? I work with our film and television business across all of our businesses to make sure that when we go somewhere to film, that we're getting incentives to help cut down the cost of production. I know that sounds really big, but it's essentially saying that I work with our production finance executives, and I also work with the government employees to find out what's the best use of, should we come here, should we go. So what drew me to Disney, I was at Viacom in New York. And what drew me to Disney is, quite honestly, Disney is the best of the best when it comes to our brands and to production. It's the industry standard. So in my position, when you're talking about being someone working as an in-house attorney, you want to go to the best of the best. You want Disney on your resume, and you want to be part of the winning team. So I'm a huge Marvel fan, right? So just continuing to make sure I network with all of my different colleagues across the industry. We all do the same thing, so we share resources. I had a conversation with someone who's now my boss, and I told her, listen, I'm living in New York. I've always wanted to live in Los Angeles. I hear that you're expanding your role, so you'll be taking on extra things. Are you looking to hire? And it was a match made in heaven. So what drew me to Disney is the brands and just how great we are and how we excel and are excellent at everything that we do. What makes my job unique, there's not one day that I'm doing the same thing. You know, today I could be reading a contract and looking at some type of withholding tax issue. Tomorrow I could spend the entire day talking to the New Zealand government or the United Kingdom government about something. You know, I have a lot of 7 a.m. calls because it's, you know, the UK from LA, it's 8 hours. So when I'm waking up, they're getting off of work. So I have to wake up really early. My job is unique because I really get to be an ambassador for the company, even though I'm a lowly tax attorney.
Well, that's the most exciting tax attorney job I think I've ever heard about.
It's true.
Right. So it's exciting. We love what we do. And, you know, Chiquita and Ivy, you both talked about, you know, those initial conversations. So I know at some point we're going to talk about networking, right? And the importance of that. You can hear that theme, but you also said you wanted to be part of a winning team. So I'm actually going to, speaking of sports, pivot to Shadid, who knows all, you know, all about the world of, you know, being on winning teams. So Shadid, talk about, you know, your path and, you know, what drew you to Disney and what's unique about what you do, especially in the world of sports.
So my path here was once I realized I wasn't going to be, excuse me, a 6'4" starting quarterback in the NFL. I had to find a different lane to be around the sports world, which I love so much growing up. So I'm that kid who grew up wanting to work at ESPN because I watched it a lot as a kid and enjoyed a lot of the programming and loved talking sports. So that's kind of what led me on my path. Once I got to FAMU, I knew I wanted to be in TV. I started out wanting to be kind of the next Stu Scott, so to speak. You know, I was interested in being in front of the camera, but I must say, as my journey through FAMU went, I got more and more comfortable and in love with being behind the camera, whether I was shooting or editing or doing all. For those who, you know, came through J School, we know all about the one-man band. So you had to know how to do everything. So because you never know which skill set you have to lean into. As far as what makes my my job unique here is one of my job functions is a Steadicam operator. So just think when you're watching a football game and that first close-up shot when someone scores a touchdown in the end zone, generally that's someone with a Steadicam, and that's one of my main job functions. So what makes the uniqueness of it is, especially when I'm on the road, I'm able to really interact with fans and be close and kind of be a bit of a production or producer is a better way of putting it, because I'm able to kind of get the crowds going a little bit and create some of the shots that you may see on TV.
Yeah, that's exciting. And, you know, you talk about transferable skills. You know, I thought I was going to be the next Oprah, so I'm right there with you. But I've spent a big part of my career in front of the camera, so still using those skills, right, that we learned at the FAMU School of Journalism. And, you know, we started to go a little bit down the path, like what drew us to Disney, what makes our roles unique. And it's really kind of, you know, your role and your pathway, you know, how you kind of made your way into the role. And so, Talana, you might be a good person to kind of talk a little bit about the specific role that you're in. You know, how did you hear about it? What was your pathway into it? Can you kind of talk from that perspective?
Sure. So by background, as I mentioned, I have a degree in accounting. And so coming out of school, coming out of FAMU, I did decide to take what we call a public accounting route. So within a year, two at the most, I actually passed the certified public accountancy exam. And so I am licensed as an accountant in the state of Florida. I did work in New York for approximately 11 years or so, working with PricewaterhouseCoopers, and then decided that I wanted to move to Florida. And so in doing that, I came and worked with a regional firm, but then needed to get back to a larger company. And so PricewaterhouseCoopers is actually the auditors of the Walt Disney Company, but my road was actually looking online. So I did an online search for different roles, and looking at my background, I had done a lot of technical accounting research, and there was a technical accounting research position at the Walt Disney Company supporting what we called back then the park segment. And then somewhat lengthy interview process, meeting a number of people, waiting for a few weeks, and then getting a call back with the offer, and then joining the company at that point in time. And so then as it relates to my current role, I do continue to support the businesses as it relates to accounting research, but I also have responsibility for the routine day-to-day accounting, closing of the books, and making sure the financial statements are correct.
Yeah, it's really good insight to have, because you think accounting and, maybe there are these students may be thinking of these 3 or 4 ways that they can kind of approach finding a role. So that's really helpful. I think the same is true, Chiquita, of law, right? As you said. So talk a little bit about how did you hear about this role? What was your pathway, and any additional insights about your role as you're in today? Like, how did you evolve to what you're doing?
Yeah, I took a very similar route that Talana took. I also started off in public accounting. So, one thing that I want to impart to the students, and especially the business students, is oftentimes you will not come out of school and go directly into an industry position. That doesn't always happen. So you have to get, like in my position and Talana's position, we both worked at public accounting firms. I worked at Ernst and Young. I started off. I interned in Ernst and Young when I was at SBI, and then I also went and worked with them. So I was with Ernst and Young for years before I went back to law school. After law school, and I decided to focus on tax because, I took all of Dr. Drummond's classes, all of the accounting and tax classes. She's still around. If anybody's in her classes, you need to log off and go study because she does not play. Um, She gave me my first and only C. It was an issue for me. I'll just say that. But I'm prepared because of Dr. Drummond, so thank you. And I went and I worked in public accounting. After law school and studying with tax, to be quite honest with you, I was in the right place at the right time. So I went to law school, Georgia State College of Law in Atlanta. And in Atlanta in 2009, when I graduated, they started a new film tax credit. So when there's a new tax credit or some type of new incentive, all of the studios flock down there. So I just so happened to have the public accounting experience and the law degree at the time where the studios needed someone to interpret a new law. They needed someone who could read the law and explain it, and also had the practical skills from public accounting to apply the law. And I had clients that were AMC, The Walking Dead. That was one of my biggest clients. Viacom and BET had a hub there, so I ended up working at a firm for them, and then they brought me in-house. Fox, the Walt Disney Company, all of these great relationships. I was prepared, and I also networked, and so I was able to go in-house with Viacom and eventually end up here. So I'm one of those people who have been very fortunate that I moved from Atlanta to New York. Viacom paid for that move. When I moved from New York to Los Angeles, and these are big moves, people, the Walt Disney Company and Fox paid for that move. So it's all about being prepared, making sure and understanding. And that I want to go to something else that Ivy said and Talana said. These interview processes, they don't just take, 2 days, 2 weeks. If you don't get an offer tomorrow, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get an offer. They take a while. We are big companies. It has to go through several rounds of interviews. And, I see someone say Dr. Drummond is the truth. That is very true. And you have to go through several rounds. I am an attorney. I've taken public accounting. I've worked at our competitors. I have all of the skills, but I still had 8 rounds of interviews, right?
Right.
At the Walt Disney Company, we want to make sure that not only are you prepared for the position, but we also want to make sure that you're a good fit and a positive attitude, because we really try to do what's right at the Walt Disney Company. And that's another thing that drew me to it. So it was my networking and being prepared.
Absolutely. Wow, Chiquita, just dropping so much knowledge and so much vital information. I can see the comments. So thank you for sharing that. And, so I'm going to pivot to, we have so much, by the way, for the folks watching us today that we want to get to. We have so much to share. I want to dig into a little bit of, once you're in your role. So Shadid, I'm going to go back to you for a second and ask you just to talk about, as Chiquita said, once you've done your networking and you've gone through the interview process and you land here, you're in this role. Talk to the students about what the favorite part of your role is, and then maybe there's an experience you've had that really excited you. Maybe talk about what that was like.
So I think it's important when you come to any of the schools from FAM that you know that you're going to be prepared for just about any situation that you're going to encounter. And in my case, I came to ESPN with robotic camera experience. And for those who don't understand robotic cameras, you can be sitting in one place, a different kind of control room setting, And then there's cameras located in either other studios or other parts of a building that you can control from either a touchscreen panel or basically like a video control panel. I came with that and able to build cameras from a sticks experience, which are, for those who may watch any of your local news, you may see people out just shooting different things. They may be on a tripod, and we sometimes call those sticks. So that's the experience that I came to ESPN with. Once I got here, it was being able just to stack skill sets. So the opportunity came along to become a Steadicam operator. I didn't know anything about it. Had never touched it before. Same with the jib. And just for an explanation of a jib. So if the jib are the cameras at the long ends of either triangular or circular sized black poles. They can vary in length, and a lot of times those lengths are determined about where we're shooting at. So for instance, I've shot in the American Airlines Arena where the Dallas Mavericks play. Really small footprint, so to speak, so only 9 foot. 2 years ago during the NBA draft, outside of Barclays Center, I was what we call full boat, about 24 feet, hanging all the way out over Atlantic Ave, which can be a little bit mind-boggling if you don't know what you're doing. And part of being able to be road ready is being able to build all of this stuff. A lot of the equipment comes to us in crates and tubes, so we have to build to specifications on site. When I'm in my Steadicam role, same thing, I'm building the camera, but I may not know where I'm going to shoot, whether the weather is going to be bad, whether it's going to be cold, whether people are going to let us shoot. So in addition to having a technical skill set, you also have to be able to interact with folks of varying levels, varying job titles, et cetera, and still be able to kind of, comport yourself the right way. I would say as far as some of the experience that I've enjoyed the most, being a part of our Super Bowl coverage 2 years previous was a great experience, just kind of being out there. Atlanta was really nice. That's kind of like FAMU North for those who kind of familiar with that. So
that's true.
That is true.
It was a significant representation. Some of my old classmates even were able to come out there and kind of get a up close personal view of what we do and what I do specifically. And also in our role, I would say there's not a lot of folks who look like me who do that. So there were some comments made, which were appreciative, obviously, of seeing someone who looked like me, us, who were in that role. So it kind of gave folks, there were a lot of questions. So I enjoyed those chances to kind of give people a little bit of behind the scenes of what goes into what 30 seconds of TV can sometimes take 2 hours to make, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can relate to that. I'll just chime in here and say one of the favorite parts of my role, you talked about the diversity of what we get to do, and Chiquita touched on that. On any given day, as head of a communications department representing 5 different businesses, sometimes I'm on a river cruise in Europe with media on a FAM. Sometimes we're doing a major PR stunt in the middle of New York Times Square. Sometimes I'm, talking to a reporter. You just never know where you're going to be and what you're going to, what skill set you're going to be able to tap into. But the excitement of being able to touch all of those things in my role, for example, and Talana, you talked about this, we're going to be launching, new ships, and watching the shipbuilding process, that's happening halfway around the world. So just so many unique and interesting things that that we get to do. And Chiquita, did you want to chime in on that? Because the next thing we're going to talk about after that is the advice that you would give your college self. Now, it's been a long time since we were all on the Hill. And I will say maybe longest for me, because I was in McGuinn Hall and used to walk across the street to the net, right?
Oh, I'm
That's
weekly all day.
McGuinn Hall here too.
But let's talk about that advice that you would give your college self. Now Ivy and Talana, I'm gonna call on you ladies maybe to kick us off and talk about that. Other panelists jump in. I mean, you can look back now. What would you tell your college self?
Yeah, so something I would tell my college self, and this is something that's come about as I continue to do recruiting and as I have aged. So, some people actually know what they're going to be when they're younger, right? And so forth. That wasn't necessarily me. So I went into accounting because I was good at math, and my mom was like, you need to find a job that will pay you some good money. And so accounting actually does that. But now that I'm almost or over 25 years into a career, I do at times think about wanting to do something else. So I try to emphasize, if there's something else that you're interested in, go ahead and get that double major or that minor now, right? There's no need to rush out, you know, if you're expecting to have a life where you can be productive for the next 40 years, right? You may not want to do that one thing for that full amount of time. So that's my one piece of advice that has been like a focus in my mind as I continue to do the recruiting processes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good advice. Ivy, what about you? What would you tell your college self?
Yeah, I had to think long and hard about this one, but college for me, I can sum it up in basically like 3 buckets, right? I wanted to get good grades, have fun, and, you know, come out of college and get a good job. And I pretty much checked the box on those things. You know, I did okay. But looking back, what I would tell my younger self and what I would impart to the listeners on the call is really focus on the professional aspect, right? So make sure you're exposing yourself to all the different opportunities that come your way. Make sure you're being intentional about seeking out mentors, interning as much as you can, whether those internships are paid or free, because exposure can be such a game changer for your career. Because the last thing you want to do is you go through school, you don't intern, and you get on a job and you're like, this isn't really what I thought this was going to be, you know, and that happens. And I have a lot of friends who majored in engineering, got jobs in engineering, and half of them are doing engineering right now. And that's okay. But at the end of the day, you want to be able to wake up to a job that you enjoy. And that is truly a blessing, because a lot of us don't get to do that. We get stuck in these roles.
Very, very true. You know, and that's a good bridge to even when you, to the next piece. And we want to talk about 2 things and then we're going to get to questions from the students, because I want to spend some time talking about whether or not you can bring your whole self to work. So that kind of is a bridge off of what you said, Ivy. But Shadid and Chiquita, would you all talk a little bit about, you know, some of the challenges? Like, we've been talking about the things that it's great and we make magic every day, but what has been the most challenging, you know, the one most challenging part of your role? I mean, I'd say for me, it has been, you know, obviously it's working with the media operating in our current environment, right? Media landscape has changed, everything's changed. Chiquita and Shadid, what about you? Ladies first.
I'm going to say, and I'm going to be very honest because I want students to know what they're in for. We are the best of the best because we work hard. And the pace sometimes and the amount of work that we have is insane. So people think because, you know, especially most of us are working remotely right now, you know, oh, you're working remotely, you know, are you kicking back and taking a nap? I'm like, a nap? What is that? Like, are you kidding me? That just means that instead of my hour commute there and back, I'm working for those 2 hours. I feel like the pace sometimes is really challenging, and because we're all the best of the best and we bring our best foot forward all the time. You know, one, you know, you're always in a room with a bunch of thinkers. You know, you're in a room with people that they know their business, they know their worth, they're sitting down, they bring their A game. So, you know, you have to come and bring your A game, whether that means you're going to read some things ahead of time, whether that means you need to know what's going on in the news and with the company so that you can come prepared to have these conversations. So I think one of the biggest challenges for me is just the pace and the fact that I always want to give. And so it's hard to turn it off sometimes. You can very easily become addicted to work and working at the Walt Disney Company, because it's really a company that's a lifestyle company. We're not just making widgets. We're not just making consumer products. We don't just do this and then tick it off and go home. A lot of us, you know, we're consumers in addition to, you know, what's that whole saying? You know, I'm not just the president, I'm also a client. We're a little bit of both. So it can be overwhelming sometimes, which just means you have to learn, and you get better at that the older you get. You have to learn to, you know, make time for yourself and to have work-life balance. I'm still learning it, but, you know, that's one of the frustrating parts sometimes, is that the pace and just the amount of work can be overwhelming. Yep.
That's a good one to call out. Shadid, and then I'm going to put a question to the entire panel, and then we're going to hear some of the questions that the students have. So Shadid, what's the most challenging part, would you say, of your role?
I would say sometimes being the only one in the room or in the production truck or something like that. And it's funny, you're usually trying to find that balance for anyone who's familiar with those Chappelle show of when to keep it real and when not to. A lot of times in those situations, I may be the only, brown or black face that's a part of the production team. And, sometimes you can tell when someone's kind of approaching you a little, trying to see where they can go with you, for lack of a better way of putting it. And it's trying to,
Microaggressions.
So exactly. So, you're trying to obviously remember you're in a professional setting, even when you're away, when you're picked to travel for the Disney company in any capacity, you got to remember that you're representing the company. And even though other folks are there as a part of the company, quote unquote, sometimes those situations can be a little dicey. So I would say, when I first started traveling was some of the challenges I had was trying to make sure that I was confident in what I was bringing to the table. And if I had some suggestions, no matter how often I worked with a specific production or not, to feel like, I was empowered enough to offer something along those lines and not feel like, I'm going to get the side eye. And even sometimes you still do get it, but you got to be, resolute in your own position and what you know about yourself and the skill sets that you bring to those type of situations. So I would say initially, those were some of the challenges I had. But, as Shakita says, you get older, you get a little wiser and you get more comfortable in your own skin, quite frankly. And especially in this day and age now with the different challenges that we're facing, from a social justice standpoint and et cetera, now's the time to be as comfortable as you're ever going to be in your skin. And because now's the time that I think if no other time before you, there are more ears that are out there than it has been.
Yeah. Yolanda, can I just also say one more thing for all of our HBCU students? I have to tell you, when I interned, I realized very quickly that HBCU students, and maybe it's because we come from a nurturing background, from an organization where we have the Dr. Drummonds that take care of us and is willing to speak into us. One of the best things is that we're very well-rounded students when we get into work. So we know how to, hang out and have a drink with our colleagues in the evening and wake up in the morning and come to work and not come to work with, hungover things. We know how to party and have fun and to network. So I want to just make sure that you guys realize that you are getting an excellent education in how the world works. And how the world works. And what you're seeing now, even though you're in a room full of people that look like you're still being taught how to go out into corporate America and predominantly white America and interact. So listen to your teachers and your professors when they're telling you that. Listen to your parents, listen to your mentors and other alums when they're talking to you, because we end up being much more polished than students, in my opinion, from predominantly white institutions.
That's well said, Chiquita, and so thank you for that. I promised you all wisdom, and you are getting it. And I know, we're all like, oh, we should have made this an hour and 30 minutes. What we're thinking. And Shadid kind of touched on bringing his whole self to work. So thank you for that, because I think that's insightful. We're going to go to some questions, and please, panelists, weave some of that in as we talk. So the very first student question is from Tyler, and Tyler is asking, with the roles that we all have, how do you feel you are giving back to the community other than entertainment?
I'll take a first step.
Take that one. Go ahead. I'll chime in on that.
I would say, last year, I had a chance. There's the NABJ conference, the National Association of Black Journalists, for those who are not aware of it. And last year was my first time being able to go as an ESPN ambassador. And it being in Miami, it was an awesome opportunity because I was able to call my professor, Professor Kenneth Jones, who is still teaching and nurturing a lot of students through the J School at FAMU. I was able to give him a call and let him know I was going to be there, and to let me know, which students that may be attending the conference and to put them on my radar. And I reached out to some other contacts from other HBCUs that I knew, the Howards, the North Carolina A&Ts, and Hampton, et cetera, where I had some personal connections So that was a way for me. I'm always trying to be the person that I guess I used to sit when I was a student that would come into the room. And Yolanda, you remember this colloquium, you know, and I used to be there, and the folks would come in there and they start talking, and you're like, man, you know, you're not really trying to hear what they're saying, but at the same time now I find it weird that I'm also that person now a little bit to a degree. So I just try to get back in that aspect and be as authentic as possible when and like we just had with giving this knowledge and information about what it takes to be in these different roles. It's because you don't want to get out here and have any false sense of security of what it's going to take to succeed, especially at a big company as like Walt Disney. So as you said, you know, listen to the folks who are dropping this here, because we're actually still living it, not just having been here, we're still living it.
Absolutely. Talana, I see you trying to jump in. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So there's a number of different things. One thing that I did just last night, which relates to a current cast member that's on my team, she's actually pursuing her master's and wants to get a CPA license as well. And so I'm helping her with her auditing course. And so to the point that Shakita made about preparation and so forth, I have a number of formal and informal mentees. And so those that are younger within the organization still need guidance. And so that's one way that I reach out. The other way is that we do have a group called Volunteers, TEARS, within the Disney Company. And our community involvement is definitely supported and encouraged. So one organization that I do a number of events with relates to junior achievement. And so with that, that's been participating in various expos. So there was an expo earlier this year that they had for 8th graders and went as a company representative, but then also teaching various courses. So for those that aren't familiar with junior achievement, they bring business concepts to schools, and that ranges all the way from kindergarten level to high school level. And so at times, and they are substantially supported by volunteers and funding. And so I take the opportunity, and this would be, you know, instead of going to my regular work day, going to the high school right up the street from me here in Orlando and teaching classes that are sort of set curriculum for the particular day that might be related to the course that they're taking.
Absolutely. I know there's a question coming up that I know Chiquita is going to talk about social media. I already know she's going to talk about your social media life on this when the attorney on the call, because we're going to talk about interviewing, but I just want to also share with the group that Talana, something you said that's important. I think it's true of everybody on this call and a lot of cast members. A lot of us are very involved in the community. I've served as chair of the board for the Central Florida Urban League for many years. I chaired the annual gala where we raised money, and the Walt Disney Company was right there with me, supporting that effort, you know, and connecting with organizations that, you know, align with our values. And our strategy, and for our friends in the North, or they said the Tallahassee of the North, in Atlanta, something called AIB, which is the Atlanta Interfaith Network, which is a television network there. I'm the vice chair of that organization, again, representing the Walt Disney Company. So you'll find a wide variety of us rolling up our sleeves, not only at work, but also in the community, representing Disney in that way. So it far surpasses entertainment and really goes to the core values of what we all believe as a company and as individuals, if I can say that for everyone. And so they'll invite me back to be a moderator again. They're getting me, they're counting me down, you know, Shadid, they're counting me down. So we're gonna go to our next question. And I think this one is important. The student question from Sierra, and Sierra is asking, and so panel, think about this, and we all know, you touched on it. Would the panel have any tips for standing out during the application and interview process? Let's talk about that. You know, how do we show up? How do you walk in the door? How do you prepare? How are you, as I like to say, I used to say in my career, unequivocally, if you give me an interview, I'm the candidate, right? Because I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to come in with a plan. I will have done my research, my homework. So I'm going to stand out as we know to do. So panelists, anybody, talk about that interview process. What do they need to know?
I'm going to say be yourself all the time, whether that's in the interview room, in the hallway of the interview, in the bathroom. And let me just say, so when I was in law school during my first year, the summer after my first year, there was a minority internship program for law students. And so there's probably 60 of us interviewing at for several law firms, and all the law firms had a panel of just kind of lawyers that were interviewing. So you went into panel A for 20 minutes, panel B for 20 minutes, panel C for 20 minutes, and they just picked and choose. So they're looking at, 60 other minority students. Well, so how do you stand out in something like that? We're all dressed well. We all have on our lip gloss. We're all apparently, good students, or else we wouldn't have even made it into the room. Well, I'm pretty bubbly most of the time, except for Fridays. Fridays, I'm not bubbly, I'm sleepy. And so I went to the restroom, and this woman was in there, and I didn't know if she was a student. Students are all ages, and she dropped her purse, and she had, lipstick and things just rolling everywhere. So I got down on the floor with her on my knees, and I'm picking up stuff, and I gave her her stuff. And we had a great conversation about, ladies things, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it fell. Should I use it? No, probably not. One of those things. And I was just my normal self. Well, she was in my panel B session, and she was one of the attorneys, and she remembered me and what she said to me. And she, she asked several questions, and she told me I ended up working at her firm, which was Kilpatrick Stockton. And what she said was she could tell that I was excited to be there. I was nervous, but I was still willing to lend a helping hand. So it's just something small, somebody else may have walked in there and let her crawl on the floor by herself, but I'm myself wherever I go. I will not let anybody I speak to secretaries, to janitors, to CEOs, to governors, to presidents. I'm myself no matter what. If I can help, I will help. And I think that that's something that when we're nervous in an interview sessions, we forget to smile. We forget to be ourselves, to joke around, whether it falls flat or not. Be yourself wherever you are, because people remember that. And someone will pick you because they saw who you were from the beginning, and that's the person that they want to work with.
Absolutely. Okay, panel, give me one more, somebody else chime in on this, and then we're actually going to go to the raffle, which is, I know what the students, some of the more exciting piece of this, right? Because we're gonna raffle off some fun things, even though this has been the most exciting piece. Somebody else give another piece of interview advice. Ooh.
I would just say,
go
ahead, Ivy.
Go ahead, Ivy.
No, I was just going to echo what Shakita and Yolanda said about bringing your authentic self. But Disney is a storytelling company. And so when you get in those interviews, be able to articulate your story, speak from your resume, and share your experience. And most importantly, make sure you do your research. If you're applying for a position, make sure you know something about the position. Make sure you can tell the interviewers something about the company. So just like a couple of nuggets to throw in there, agreeing with Yolanda and Shakita.
Fantastic.
And you don't have to be sweet, smiley, and chipper. I see someone posted that.
Ilana, yes. What if you're not sweet, smiley, and
I'm
chipper?
not that person. Yeah. I mean, I'm pleasant, but I'm not bubbly. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I have to tell you, this has just been an incredible day. I'm going to tell you on behalf of these panelists, we could speak to you all day. We are as excited to be here with you, all of you, we hope you were all excited to be here with us. And what I will say is, we obviously didn't get to everyone's questions. So the team that has put this together is going to go through, look at all the questions, and we will get all of your questions answered, right? So not to worry if we didn't get to your question. We thank you for them, but we want to make sure that we share as much information as we possibly can. So I am really excited, panelists. Can I get a little bit of a drum roll?
Well, so first we'll talk a little bit about the application process and how students can look up jobs, and then we'll give the winners. So I'll be very quick because I know they're waiting on those winners. So first and foremost, let's give a round of applause for our excellent moderator and our panelists. Thank you very much for the advice you share with those students. I'm sure they're going to take a lot of that back. I'm going to take some of it back. So I'm a Disney recruiter, and I'm excited to share some recruitment information, including how to stay connected and more about career opportunities. So feel free to take notes and screenshots of the next few slides so you can refer back to them at a later time. So I am going to share my screen. So let me know when you can see that.
We got you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So given this unusual time, there are limited opportunities, but typically we would have various roles posted around the season on our website. So let's talk some valuable things to keep in mind for the future. So first, for professional internships, there are 3 seasons, so spring, summer, and fall. Each program length is between 3 to 6 months and can be extended up to a year depending on business need. So all of our internships are paid, and their hourly rate depends on the position. So some things you'll love most are the work perks. So those include complimentary theme park admissions, discounts on merchandise, dining, my favorite, resort stays, and opportunities to build relationships with interns and network with other professionals. And you'll get to attend specific events like professional development panels, social activities, which are all part of the experience. So for all of our internships, you must be taking classes at an accredited college and/or university, or graduate within the past 18 months. So that means seniors, graduate students, and even recent graduates are eligible for these opportunities. So a little call to action. So now I'm sure you're curious what kind of roles we have for your specific major or interest within Disney. So to learn more, text the word Disney intern to the number listed on the screen. So that's 52426. And most importantly, visit disneycareers.com to explore areas and be sure to sign up for job alerts so you'll be the first to know exactly what job opportunities become available. So if you have any questions, again, you can place them in the Q&A. We have your contact information, so we'll be able to reach out to you if your question wasn't answered. So finally, the moment has come. I know everybody's waiting. So Yolanda, can you tell us who our 5 lucky Disney Plus winners are? Drum roll.
Drum roll. And the winners are, oh, I just lost them. Hang on 1 second. Oh, now I'm really building anticipation. Hold on a minute. Okay, ready for our winners? Our winners are Latasha Tyson, Tyler Silver, Lee Wilson, Lauren Wynn, and Jade Fryer. Congratulations, everybody.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. So you will all be getting, and keep me honest here, a subscription to Disney Plus, right? And it's rich with so much incredible content. So a really exciting way to spend free time when you're not studying, right?
So thank you, everybody. We truly appreciate it. Again, thank you to our panel and our moderators, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Thank you.
family.